My beautiful Vox amp of 20 plus years old is dead. It was a great little amp, but I think it's time to move on.
Tier 1 imports.
And there are a lot of options.
This place has got everything. Everything.
I really like the Vox sound, and every one of these is rated very high. How about Mesa Boogie? Other Mesa Boogie amps also seem to be highly rated. How about Marshalls?
Also rated high.
Orange? Yowza, very high. Bad Cat? High. Tone King? High. Sir? Dr. Z? Both high. Fender? Every single one has above a 4.5-star rating, except for one amp.
But are all these products really between 4 and 5 stars? Could every single amp from Sweetwater and Guitar Center and Musician's Friend be really that good? Turns out the answer is a definite no.
A bunch of hieroglyphics. White blinking lights.
If you think about it, these results aren't super surprising. I mean, us musicians, we really love our gear, even if it's got a few flaws here and there. I could do this same search for synthesizers and pretty much get the same results.
Here's the rub though. An amp is probably the one piece of musical gear that really gets abused. They're running some pretty high voltages through sensitive transistors and valves, sometimes for hours in 90+ degree heat in the sun on a stage. They're heavy, so they get dropped or tip over in the truck when you're driving.
I was pretty lucky my Vox lasted 20 plus years. I mean, there were times where I gigged with it twice a week for months on end, sometimes in 90-degree heat in the hot sun. And yeah, I got tipped over maybe once.
So while these reviews probably reflect how enamored most musicians are with their gear during week 1 or 2, they don't tell the whole story. Because if you're going to spend $800 or $1,500 or $2,500 on a guitar amp, that thing better last 10 years or more.
And it better not be in the shop every couple of years with hundreds of dollars in repairs. Which brings me to the problem I find myself in, because it seems that amp quality is pretty lacking.
I've owned one of these, and it was crap. And I've owned one of these, and I was afraid I was going to blow up.
True story. In order to start that car, I had to hold the accelerator pedal to the floor for about 10 to 15 seconds. That thing always smelled like gas.
And this thing was in the shop a lot.
This is why I do these review videos. I don't want to buy a piece of junk, and I don't want you to either. But since I don't own any of these amps, how would I know if they are reliable?
Imagination.
This is not the time for joking. We're doing serious research which requires complete and utter focus.
Am I talking too much?
Let's start with Fender, because I really like the sound of the Fender Deluxe Reverb. But based on a bunch of videos and some Reddit rants, it sounds like most of the modern Fenders have some pretty serious build quality issues. In fact, Lyle from Psionic Audio has the opinion that a fair number of modern Fenders won't last much past their warranty period, and will then require repairs in the hundreds of dollars.
That kind of sucks. I mean, as far as tone goes, Fenders are great. But if I'm going to spend $1,800 on an amp, I don't want to take it into the shop in 2 years' time and plunk down another $500. If I want to spend that kind of money, I want it to last 10 or 20 years with maybe just a couple of tube replacements in that time period.
Mesa Boogie is another popular brand, and I've played a Mesa Boogie Express Custom. It sounded great and had a lot of options, including an EQ and multiple wattage settings. It's also one of the best looking amps I've seen, with beautiful wood sides. Unfortunately, it too has problems that could cost you a lot of money down the road, and there are a lot of videos on the supposed poor build quality of these amps, with multiple undersized components.
Too much?
Blackstar is yet another manufacturer with apparent reliability issues, with the cost of repairs often exceeding the cost of the amp. The Blackstar Artisan 30, however, is an exception, so I'll keep that on my list of amps to try out. Marshall also appears to have some issues, and both Lyle and Dave Friedman of Freeman Amps agree on this. And while I appreciate the Marshall sound, I prefer a Tweed or AC30 tone, so it's not that hard of a decision to cross off this manufacturer from my list. Orange amps seem to get some mixed reviews, with the major issue being the very thin pot stems, which can break off. I'm also not a fan of their weird symbols instead of labels, So, at least for me, I'm going to cross orange off the list as well.
Used to be so cocky.
3 more to cross off include Morgan amps, Victory amps, and Hughes Kettner. The Hughes Kettner is kind of a bummer, as it both looks cool and has a ton of features. But the review video I watched mentioned that other amp techs were actually afraid to work on it because it is so complicated, and that's not good.
God's greatest gift.
Finally, let's look at one of the most favored amp manufacturers out there as far as tone goes, and that is Matchless. First off, these are probably out of my price range, coming in at over $4,300 new. While these amps sound amazing, they also run hot, which can shorten the tube life and also cause warping of the plastic front plate. These don't seem to be huge issues, but the potential additional maintenance cost and price mean that they are a no-go for me.
Now, to be fair, most people probably aren't going to have issues with their amps. It's probably a pretty small percentage of people that have to take their amp into the shop. And Lyle sees these things all day, every day. And yeah, he can be a bit critical at times. But it depends on what kind of gamble you want to take with these kind of things. And there's enough good options out there where I, for one, don't want to do that.
So let's review some amps that have very good reviews for both build quality and sound. There are a number of them, starting actually with one of the big 3 makers, Vox. Unlike Fender and Marshall, the AC30cc and AC15C1 amps seem to have pretty good reliability, even though these are made in China. Now, these are PCB board amps, and they do apparently have a few minor problems, including poor Tolex compared to some other manufacturers. Both of these are great sounding amps though, and I'll be looking into these a bit more. Top Hat amps were lauded by several amp repair channels and threads, and they have a number of different models that emulate famous Vox and Tweed type sounds. They all sound pretty good, so these definitely will be going into my final selection list. Bad Cat is another manufacturer which gets high praise, especially since Mark Sampson had a hand in the recent amp lineup. Mark is well known and respected throughout the amp community. Sir, Dr. Z, Friedman, Tone King, and Divided by 13 are also highly lauded amp manufacturers, and I'm hoping to try at least a few of these out in the next week.
Finally, though, let's talk about Tungsten and Two Rock. 2 really awesome manufacturers. The tone is really there on both of their lineups. And I've been watching a ton of videos on these amps. They're definitely finalists. I'd like to find some of these amps, hopefully in the next week as I do some traveling. And we'll see if I pick something up or if I'm sad and ampless.
That's it for today. If you want more information, be sure to check out Lyle's channel on YouTube and Dave Friedman's channel on YouTube, because there is a wealth of information on amp repairs and tube amps and guitar tone in general. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe to real humans like me, and not that fake AI slop that a lot of people are watching. We'll make some great music, and I will see you on the other side of the mountain.
So maybe there'll be a part 2 where I actually buy something instead of just talking about stuff over and over and over again and researching and pointing at things. Yeah.